Manager's Tea Break. My name's Nikki, and thanks for spending your break with me. Today's episode is receiving feedback gracefully. Sticks and stones may break my bones, but words will never hurt me. What bull? Back in 2018, I launched my first online course. I was full of excitement, nerves, and anticipation. How would my course be received? Would people like it? I had spent months and countless hours preparing the topic, scripting, filming, editing, and preparing everything to market after launch. Post-launch, I spent the first weeks maniacally refreshing the Udemy Instructor page to see if I had any new students or reviews. Much to my delight, the reviews were overwhelmingly positive. As a result of this social proof, the number of students in the course continued to grow, and I gleefully started considering what my next course topic should be. Until I came across a 1-star review with the comment, "Not a great match, a little too basic." A pretty vanilla comment, not personal and clearly explaining the reason for the poor review. Seems pretty fair, right? Yet I felt it. I had spent so long working on this course and someone didn't like it. I was crushed. I immediately went into mental defense mode. Too basic? I said it was a beginner course. They should have read the course landing page better. I bet they didn't even look through the course content outline. By this point, the course already had over 100 reviews, typically 4 or 5 stars. Yet this 1-star review is the one I remember. I don't remember a quote from a positive review, though I know there were many lovely ones because I can remember how I felt reading them. But I can't remember the comments off the top of my head. Think about the last time you received feedback. Constructive criticism or not, any feedback. How did you handle it? Did you immediately start to make excuses for or justify the behavior? Did you attempt to shift the blame or sidestep the issue? Did you dismiss the feedback as the feedback giver didn't have all the context? Did you feel frustrated with the person who provided you with the feedback? Was the example you thought of negative feedback or positive feedback? Studies show we're 4 times more likely to remember negative criticism than praise, and that bad feedback is processed more thoroughly than good. We need to experience 5 positive events to balance out the psychological effect of just one negative event. And highly sensitive people may never be able to fully shrug off a negative critique. This is perfectly human. Negativity bias helped humans evolve over hundreds of years to remember and respond to threats to survive natural disasters, wars, diseases, etc. It's perfectly natural to dislike receiving criticism. We are hardwired to remember it and feel it more acutely. Nevertheless, feedback is what helps us grow. We receive feedback every day in our personal and professional lives. It's omnipresent and tainted with bias. So we need to learn to accept it gracefully and in the spirit it's given. There's a great example I came across in Scott Mott's Inc. article. Critics believe the creators of the art really want feedback of any kind. They see their role as a teacher, and teachers challenge the material they're discussing. They see themselves as reporters, boosters, and skeptics, all to create better art. End quote from Albert Williams. Those working in the theater business who have their work heavily criticized probably don't feel the same way when it's their work that's being criticized. But if the feedback is given with the right intentions, then it's something to be thankful for, and you should be grateful to the feedback giver. If you don't receive feedback as such, you'll get less of it. If you receive it thoughtfully, then people will feel safe enough to give you more of it. It's just like a gift. For example, my partner and I still give his adult cousins gifts every Christmas because they receive them seemingly so happily. They smile, open the packages, show off the gifts to everyone at the dinner table, and hug us saying thank you. They receive the gifts so graciously that we just continue doing it. Four tips for receiving feedback gracefully. So how can you receive feedback gracefully? It's easier said than done for sure. To improve your emotional intelligence when it comes to receiving feedback, 1, thank the feedback giver for speaking up. 2, be curious about the feedback. 3, thank the feedback giver for their input. And 4, reflect on how you want to proceed further. So first, thank the feedback giver for speaking up. First off, you shouldn't take for granted that someone is willing to give you feedback. If the feedback is coming from a place of wanting to help you improve in the future, and it's come at a good time so that you can act on it, then you should be thankful the person had the guts to tell you. In many companies, often due to hierarchies or closed corporate cultures, employees don't feel the psychological safety needed to offer candid feedback. They may be afraid of possible repercussions. 2, be curious about the feedback. According to Merriam-Webster, when used as an adjective, the word curious means, quote, marked by desire to investigate and learn, end quote. This is your next step, to investigate and learn. You do this by listening, really listening to what the feedback giver is saying. Demonstrating curiosity also goes a long way to showing the other person you care about what they have to say. If they feel you take their feedback under serious consideration, they'll be primed to give you more of it. You don't necessarily have to agree with their feedback, but you have to learn what they mean and why they have a particular point of view. Ask clarifying questions if needed to ensure that you truly understand where they are coming from. Being curious also means discussing what the other person would like you to do differently next time. This is key because feedback should be provided to adjust, improve, and enhance current and future actions and behaviors. You need to discuss with the feedback giver how you should take this feedback into account in the future. 3, thank them for their input. A common error I notice when people receive feedback is that they remember to thank the feedback giver, but don't thank them for anything in particular. How often have you heard the phrase, "thank you for the feedback," in a professional setting? I'd wager if people are giving feedback in your workplace, that might be one of the most common ways it's received. However, this can be quite dismissive to the feedback giver. Many times, this phrase is also given out as an automatic response by the feedback receiver before they've even fully understood the feedback giver's point. Think about a situation where you might have given someone feedback and they responded to you with that phrase. Then think, how would it have been if instead of parroting that phrase, they showed curiosity first and asked for more information? That's why the first step when receiving feedback is thanking them for the fact that they spoke up. That's a specific piece of the puzzle you are thanking them for. Then demonstrating curiosity about the feedback, and then thanking them for something specific that you have discussed with them. Thanking them for a specific part of the feedback doesn't necessarily mean you fully agree with the point, but at least that feedback has made you do some self-reflection, which has the potential to help you grow both personally and professionally. 4, reflect on how you want to proceed further. The final step is to ruminate on the feedback. You should consider how you might want to adjust or not adjust your actions and behaviors in future. Critics may also say there is a part of the step where you should agree on the actions together with the feedback giver or directly commit to it with them. However, I think you need time to absorb feedback before you can make a genuine commitment to decide how you want to act in the future. Plus, sometimes you need to discuss the topic with other people and get more perceptions before you change your approach. How to put this into practice. An example of how these 4 steps come together could be in the following scenario. You're a manager of a small team, leaving the room where you just finished running the team's weekly alignment meeting. One of your team members pulls you aside and quietly says, "I wanted to give you some feedback about that meeting. I felt you talked over Anish quite a few times and didn't let him finish his point." You respond by telling her, "Thank you for speaking up and letting me know how it looked. Could you tell me a bit more about what you noticed?" The team member goes on to point out 1 or 2 moments that she feels are good examples of this. Rather than defending yourself, you continue to show curiosity. What else did you see? How was it different than when I interacted with other people? How do you think I can handle that better next time? And then, thank you for telling me about example 1 and 2 and your suggestion to look at Anisha's body language to see if he's done making his point. I will take this feedback on board. Maybe you believe this ending is too bland without a commitment, but consider this. What happens if you agree on a course of action with the feedback giver, and then later, upon reflection, realize that what you committed to is not the best approach? At best, the feedback giver may feel that you were disingenuous with your commitment. At worst, they may feel that their feedback didn't make a difference and they won't be providing more of it. Another criticism of this approach could be not defending yourself. Quote, I know you think you understand what you thought I said, but I'm not sure you realize that what you heard is not what I meant. End quote. Alan Greenspan. While I do believe sharing your perspective on the situation is important in the discussion phase, if there is a discrepancy between your intentions and the perception of the feedback giver, stop blaming others for not getting your point. Remember, your intentions are private only to you, while perception is external, and that belongs to the people interacting with you. If people are perceiving your actions and behaviors in a different way than how you want them to be perceived, then it's up to you to work on bridging the gap. And sometimes their perception is wrong. They might not have all the context. They may have misread the situation as they come to the table with their own biases. So you have to keep this in mind during the feedback discussion as well. Quote, there is no truth. There is only perception. End quote. Gustav Flaubert. In my online courses, I've had mostly great and a few poor reviews. Even though it's difficult to have a real conversation with an online review poster, at least I can comment thanking them for their feedback, ask questions to get clarification, and think of ways I can further improve the course. Not everyone is going to love a course, but there are always things to learn. For example, the comment I shared earlier inspired me to tweak the text on my Asana course landing page to make it even clearer that it's a beginner level course. It's the same in a professional setting. Just follow the steps we discussed. Thank the feedback giver for speaking up, be curious about the feedback, thank them for their input, and reflect on it. If you only receive occasional feedback, it can be difficult to get the big picture as you have only perceptions from 1 or 2 people. That's why it's key to receive feedback with grace, so that people feel not only comfortable giving you feedback, but they feel you appreciate and reflect on it. Then you'll get feedback more frequently and from a wider variety of people. Wrapping up, I leave you with this quote from Anne-Marie Houtailing. Quote, feedback is a free education to excellence. Seek it with sincerity and receive it with grace. End quote. Thanks for listening. I'll see you in next month's episode. And if you enjoyed today's podcast, then please go ahead and follow or subscribe to the podcast so that you can be notified of future episodes.